forum of the 9th Summit of the Americas, it is my pleasure to introduce Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Mr. Luis Almagro. Estimado Secretario General, tiene la palabra.
Thank you very much. Gracias, Celina. El foro de la sociedad civil refleja el compromiso del país anfitrión de la 9ª cumbre de Estados Unidos y de la OEA para continuar fortaleciendo la participación de la sociedad civil y otros actores sociales en el proceso. Secretario de Estado adjunto Brian Nichols, estimadas y estimados representantes de sociedad civil, actores sociales, es un honor darles la bienvenida al Foro de la Sociedad Civil que se desarrolla en el marco de la 9ª cumbre. La 9ª cumbre es un hito en el proceso de cumbres a casi 30 años de la primera cumbre de la ciudad de Miami. La realización de la 9ª cumbre refleja el compromiso de Estados Unidos de renovar su alianza hemisférica para abordar la recuperación económica de la región, trabajar conjuntamente para fortalecer nuestra respuesta a posibles emergencias de salud y para defender con firmeza y determinación la democracia. Esta cumbre representa un momento histórico para repensar y reflexionar sobre cómo enriquecer y vigorizar las relaciones interamericanas. Muchos esfuerzos se han hecho para mejorar e innovar esta participación. Han venido siendo emprendidos en la Secretaría de Cumbre de las Américas, generando así diferentes mecanismos de participación a través de los años. El Foro de la Sociedad Civil refleja el proceso de mejora e innovación que hemos realizado a través de la Secretaría de Cumbres para fortalecer los mecanismos de participación. Por un lado, como tradicionalmente se ha venido realizando, el Foro les ofrecerá la oportunidad para finalizar sus recomendaciones, que presentarán a sus representantes gubernamentales en el diálogo de alto nivel a realizarse el miércoles 8. Por otro lado, le permitirá interactuar con expertos para profundizar su conocimiento e intercambiar ideas, así como para exponer sus iniciativas que realizan sobre las temáticas de la 9ª cumbre durante hoy y mañana. Del mismo modo, queremos resaltar que gracias a su compromiso e interés con el proceso, estamos reunidos hoy. Muchos de ustedes han estado participando activamente en el proceso de cumbres desde hace varios años, más recientemente con motivo de la fase preparatoria a la 9ª cumbre, a través de grupos de trabajo temáticos subregionales orientados a fomentar un diálogo constructivo y la formulación de insumos sobre los 5 proyectos de compromiso políticos presentados por el país anfitrión. En particular, el Foro Sociedad Civil contará con espacios para que las y los integrantes de estos grupos de trabajo se reúnan, así como para que puedan participar en conversatorios temáticos y una feria de iniciativas sobre al particular de estos 2 días. Les invito a aprovechar al máximo estos espacios, los cuales han sido diseñados para ustedes. Su trabajo y su esfuerzo trascenderán más allá de la semana, ese es el objetivo. Es indispensable seguir contando con su participación y contribución a todas las fases del proceso de cumbres para lograr que los resultados tengan un impacto contundente en beneficio de los pueblos de las Américas y el progreso de la región. Definitivamente tenemos que abordar cada uno de los temas hemisféricos. Lamentablemente es un hemisferio en el que todavía hay muchísima discriminación. Discriminación contra población discriminación contra población LGBTI, discriminación contra la mujer, discriminación por razones de sexo, razón de orientación sexual. Es el continente más desigual, es el continente más violento, es el continente hoy más peligroso para los periodistas. Es un continente en el cual definitivamente tenemos que resolver cada uno de estos temas, cada uno de estos asuntos debe ser abordado con espíritu de generar compromisos y pactos más fuertes, con más apoyo institucional, con más apoyo internacional. Tenemos que revertir condiciones de pobreza, tenemos que revertir condiciones de violencia, tenemos que revertir condiciones de discriminación. Necesitamos mecanismos para hacer realidad esto. Tenemos que trabajar por mejor educación, por mucha más educación, con más inclusión, con más calidad, para tener mejores capacidades, para crear nuevas condiciones de crear riqueza en nuestro hemisferio. Nos debemos definitivamente mucha más racionalidad política, nos debemos acercar los unos a los otros. Tenemos que encontrar los mecanismos de diálogo dentro de la sociedad civil, las mejores formas de entendimiento, la mejor forma de actuar juntos. mostrando a los liderazgos políticos de la región que hay un camino hacia adelante, que hay un camino buscando la igualdad, que hay un camino buscando la equidad, buscando el acceso a derechos, que hay un camino en el cual nos queremos afirmar para lograr mejores condiciones de desarrollo y para revertir las condiciones de vida que tienen nuestros pueblos hoy. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. Now it is my honor to introduce the Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs of the United States and Night Summit host, Brian Nichols. Ambassador Nichols, you have the floor.
Muy buenos días a todos. Un saludo muy especial a nuestro querido secretario general de la OEA, Luis Almagro, y estoy completamente de acuerdo con su intervención. Bienvenidos and welcome to the Civil Society Forum of the Summit of the Americas. It's wonderful to see this diverse crowd. Thank you for making the journey to Los Angeles and working with your colleagues to contribute to important civil society perspectives on matters affecting the citizens of the Americas. And thank you for your brave and noble work to do what you do daily in defense of freedoms, of human rights, and to promote equality, opportunity, and justice across our hemisphere. Together, you are an example that others around the world can follow. As this year's summit host and chair of the Summit Implementation Review Group, or SURGE, the United States prioritized political commitments in 5 areas: democratic governance, digital transformation, health and resilience, accelerating the clean energy transition, and our green future. Each of these topics is essential to achieving the summit's mandate of building a sustainable, resilient, and equitable future. On democratic governance, the United States knows we all have work to do on building strong and inclusive democracies, including in our own country. A civil society that is free to speak its mind and voice its opinions is essential to any strong and inclusive democracy. At the summit, our collective action can demonstrate our commitment to upholding the role of a free civil society to serve as a check on government. Second, on health and pandemic resilience, the United States proposes that the hemisphere's leaders take a whole-of-government approach to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, prepare for future pandemics, and address systemic health issues. Third, on clean energy transition, we will discuss implementation of renewable energy goals and the ways the hemisphere can share technical knowledge and best practices to put the Americas at the forefront of the global clean energy transition. Fourth, on climate change, our hemisphere will build on long-standing commitments on climate resilience, sustainability, and indigenous rights to strengthen the hemisphere's resilience and adaptive capacity to withstand the impacts of climate change and extreme weather events. Fifth and finally, on digital transition, we will identify shared priorities and commit to specific actions building digital ecosystems based on interoperable, resilient, secure, and reliable telecommunications networks. These are the digital networks that will drive innovation and expand access to goods, services, and information in new ways. I know that all of you are committed to making progress on each of these topics, which is why your voice and your presence here this week is so important. As you know, the first ever official gathering of civil society within the Summit of the Americas occurred in Panama in 2015. At that time, it was already overdue and a welcomed initiative to include civil society and what had always been previously a gathering of only political leaders. It was understood that civil society is a fundamental backbone of society and democracy in the Americas, and that you needed to be here too, to express your recommendations directly to the governments of the hemisphere. I am pleased to see that this inclusion of civil society and the summit has been truly institutionalized. and how that participation has grown since 2015. You may not be aware of it, but requests for invitations to the Civil Society Forum exceeded the capacity of this meeting space 3 times over. We strove to ensure the greatest diversity of representation possible within the constraints of summit logistics and operations. I am so pleased to welcome representatives from campesino organizations, women's groups, Afro-Latino and indigenous organizations, environmental defenders, LGBTQI+ groups, just to name a few, to describe the array of interests represented here today. And for those who are not able to be with us in person, I am glad we're able to include you virtually. That diversity of interests and viewpoints is so essential to the effective functioning of a democratic society. You keep governments honest. You point out corrupt practices, speak up for the voiceless, come up with creative solutions to problems for others who do not live your daily reality and maybe don't even realize that you exist. You ensure that the marginalized are not left out of solutions. In speaking up, you often incur personal risk to yourselves. Governments who do not like to be challenged may suppress your voice, take away your resources, surveil you, unjustly imprison you, threaten your loved ones. Corrupt and criminal interests may put a target on your back when you disrupt their criminal enterprises, and yet you continue to work, and I applaud you. We are here to support you so that you can carry on. To do so is vital. Many examples of positive change in history have originated not from government action, but from the vanguard actions of civil society pushing for change and justice. Movements like Black Lives Matter in the United States and the Mothers of the Plaza de Mayo in Argentina have worked to promote restorative justice throughout our region. In the Western Hemisphere, networks like Red Lad connect organizations, activists, and civil society leaders from around 20 countries, finding strength in collective action and training the next generation of leaders. Directorio Legislativo is another organization dedicated to strengthening democratic governance in the region, seeking to facilitate access to information and accountability to create open and responsible governments. The challenge for governments is to listen to what their citizens are asking for and to respond swiftly and appropriately to make living conditions better for all. That's why we are here at this forum today. You've brought your best thinking to the summit's 5 themes, and you are here to share your consensus on what government should do in those areas. There will be a healthy debate and some disagreement, as there should be, but the governments of the region look forward to receiving your input in Wednesday's high-level dialogue on how to address the issues that affect us all and that will carry us into the future. We look forward to hearing what you have to say, and thank you again for your incredible work across our hemisphere.
Thank you very much, Assistant Secretary Nichols. At this moment, I would like to present Secretary of Hemispheric Affairs of the Organization of American States, Ambassador James Lambert. Ambassador Lambert, please go ahead.
Muchas gracias, María Celina, y un cordial buenos días a todo el mundo participando hoy en día. Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs, Brian Nichols, Secretary General Almagro, Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendes, distinguished representatives of civil society and social actors. It's very nice to see so many people who have, over the process since 2015, become familiar faces and good friends in this collaborative process that was described by our 2 previous speakers. It's a pleasure for me to also welcome you to the Civil Society Forum, which is a space where civil society and social actors will gather to exchange ideas, good practices, lessons learned on the themes of the 9th Summit, as well as to convene recommendations to be presented in the dialogue between civil society, social actors, and high-level government representatives that will take place later in this week. And these are part of a series of activities that I've been asked to briefly describe to you. But before we do that, I would just like to reiterate or pick up the point about how since 2015 this process has in each iteration been improved, become more representative, and the host government has certainly worked to make this the most inclusive summit to date. And I would like to congratulate all of you, because many people think that summits are where people turn up and look for the photo opportunity, but we know that this is a group that has actually done the work over the months since the convening of these specific working groups, and everybody who is here has earned a seat at the table by virtue of the work that they have carried out. So that's very important. The format of the Civil Society Forum will consist of 4 different activities. First of all, there will be thematic working group meetings, as well as thematic discussions that will take place amongst experts, and an initiatives fair will take place in the room beside us here, which and this will all culminate later in the week at the high-level dialogue, which takes place on Wednesday. The objective of the working group meetings is to advance the work that has been ongoing since March of this year, focusing on the summit thematic pillars, which is Secretary Nichols mentioned. So each of the 5 thematic working groups has been working on formulating recommendations to be presented by a spokesperson at the dialogue between civil society and high-level government representatives on the 8th. The thematic discussions will provide a space for an exchange of ideas and good practices on these same thematic pillars of the 9th Summit and related topics between experts and civil society representatives. There will be a total of 7, in this case, thematic discussions on the following topics: improving migrants' integration in the Americas, advancing democratic accountability, the endeavor of civil society and social actors, strengthening regional and national emergency preparedness, gender equality and democracy in the 21st century, digital transformation, human rights and the internet, strengthening the role of environmental defenders in protecting forests from illegal deforestation, and building sustainable, resilient, and inclusive cities of the future. The initiatives fair will provide a space for civil society representatives and social actors to present their projects related to the thematic pillars of the 9th Summit and help to showcase their works and efforts and share their good practices. And the activities that I have mentioned will be taking place throughout the 6th and the 7th from 9 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. We have distributed the agenda of the Civil Society Forum so that you are aware of the dates and that you can participate best in the activities that are of interest to you. You'll also see there are links for the live streaming of these events, and I encourage you, because you have extensive networks, to share those links so that the hemisphere as a whole can participate in these very interesting sessions that you will be convening. After this opening session, some of you will be joining your thematic working groups, and the rest will be able to participate in the thematic discussions. In addition, I encourage you to visit the fair so you can learn more about the projects and initiatives which are being led by your peers. I invite you to actively engage in these conversations. I thank each and every one of you for participation, as well as your valuable contributions, which will undoubtedly enrich the 9th Summit of the Americas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Lambert. To close this session, on behalf of the Summit Secretary, we are grateful for the participation of Assistant Secretary of State Nichols, Secretary General Almagro, Assistant Secretary General Méndez, and Ambassador Lambert. Me gustaría terminar resaltando el valor del proceso de Cumbres de las Américas, un proceso participativo, diverso e inclusivo, en el que se destaca el compromiso y contribuciones de la sociedad civil. Este es un esfuerzo de ustedes y para ustedes, por lo cual queremos dejarles con un mensaje invitándoles a seguir siendo parte de este proceso. Adelante.
La 9ª Cumbre de las Américas se celebrará en la ciudad de Los Ángeles, California, en junio del 2022, siendo Estados Unidos el país anfitrión de esta edición. Es el encuentro que reúne a los jefes de Estado y de Gobierno elegidos democráticamente para debatir y tomar decisiones sobre los temas relevantes de la región. En cada cumbre se discuten temas políticos, económicos y sociales que reflejan los desafíos que enfrentan las Américas y sus ciudadanos.
So, can we contribute to that discussion?
We can do it in the preparation phase of the 9th Summit. It's where the dialogue and participation of the different stakeholders begins, involving government representatives, international organizations, civil society and social actors, the private sector, women's organizations, labor, youth, members of other diverse groups. It ensures the plurality, the diversity, and the citizen participation.
¿Cómo podemos participar?
Los diferentes actores participan mediante foros y diálogos regionales, en los que se analizan y debaten los problemas y desafíos que enfrentan las Américas. De esta manera se buscan soluciones conjuntas para mejorar la calidad de vida de la ciudadanía de la región. En nuestro rol de representantes de la sociedad civil y actores sociales, participamos de grupos de trabajo temáticos subregionales. Ese es el primer paso para poder contribuir en el proceso de cumbres mediante un diálogo constructivo, orientado a formular recomendaciones sobre las temáticas de la cumbre.
Luego, estas recomendaciones se presentan a los países participantes del proceso de cumbres a través de voceras y voceros elegidos y elegidas por las y los integrantes de cada grupo.
¿Solo podemos participar en los grupos de trabajo?
Los grupos de trabajo son el paso inicial. También habrá otros espacios de participación en la semana de la 9ª Cumbre de las Américas, donde podrán hacer escuchar su voz en el foro de la sociedad civil y actores sociales y el diálogo entre los actores sociales y las o los representantes de alto nivel de los gobiernos.
And what happens after the summit?
Luego de finalizada la cumbre, entra en acción la fase seguimiento. En esta etapa, los diferentes actores pueden contribuir desde sus diversos ámbitos a la implementación de los resultados de las cumbres.
And why is it important to participate in all the stages of the 9th Summit?
Porque construir um futuro sustentável, resiliente e equitativo para as Américas requer envolvimento e ação de todos nós. E juntos podemos fazer.
Juntos.
Together.
Juntas y juntos.
Together for the Americas.
Muchas gracias. Un aviso nada más. We would like to request our participants in order to agilize entry process, if your bags can be left in the room in order to have a smooth re-entry after lunch for security reasons. Thank you so much.
No dije más nada porque usted ya les dijo dónde tiene que ir. ¿Perdón? Usted les dijo dónde tiene que ir. Thank you, Nestor, for